Hello, and welcome to Elevate Within. I'm your host, Sandy Davis. Now, before I get into today's episode, I want to read something that I wrote. It came from a recent conversation, one that really stayed with me. Not because it was new, but because it made me pause and really listen in a different way. Because it made me question something I think a lot of us don't. And that is the voices in our head. That main voice. You know, the one that shows up without warning, the one we automatically believe, the one we rarely stop to ask, where did that come from? I realize I've been listening to that voice for years without ever asking if it was actually mine. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of us have been carrying thoughts, beliefs, and narratives that were shaped by experiences, environments, and expectations long before we ever had the chance to define ourselves. And somewhere along the way, we started calling that voice truth. So I sat with that and I wrote this because this is what Elevate Within is about. Not just becoming, but unlearning, questioning, and slowly, intentionally coming back to who you really are. So I want to share this with you. The title of it is called, Whose Voice Is That? The most damaging thoughts we carry aren't always our own. There's a voice in your head. You know the one. It shows up when you're about to try something new, when you've experienced a setback, or when you're finally starting to get a little bit proud of yourself. And it whispers, who do you think you are? You're not ready. You're gonna mess this up. Something's wrong with you. For a long time, I thought that voice was mine. I thought it was my intuition, my awareness, my truth, but it wasn't. I remember hitting moments in my life, especially after setbacks, where that voice got louder. Not just critical, but convincing. And the most dangerous part, I didn't question it. I accepted it as a fact. But something shifted for me when I finally slowed down long enough to finally listen. Not just to what it was saying, but how it was saying it. The tone, the language, the weight behind it. And I realized that voice sounds familiar, too familiar. It sounded like moments from my childhood, like things I heard growing up, like environments where I learned to question myself before anyone else could. It sounded like survival, not truth. And that realization changed everything. Because if the voice wasn't mine, then I didn't have to keep agreeing with it. So I did something that felt uncomfortable at first. I started talking back. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a quiet, intentional way. When that voice would say, "You're not ready," I would respond, "Maybe I am, and I'll figure it out if I'm not." When that voice would say, "You're gonna fail," I would say, "Or I might succeed. You don't get to decide that for me." It wasn't about silencing the voice. It was about channeling it, questioning it, separating it from who I actually am. Because here's the truth, most of us were never taught. Not every thought you have deserves your belief. I'm going to say that again. Not every thought you have deserves your belief. Some of them were inherited, some were molded, some were repeated so often they started to feel like your own voice, but they're not. And if you've ever found yourself asking, what's wrong with me? I want you to pause for a moment and ask a different question instead. Where did that come from? So again, when you have that voice in your head saying, what's wrong with me? Ask a different question. Where did that come from? Why am I questioning what's wrong with me? Because there is nothing inherently wrong with you. But there may be a voice you've been carrying that was never yours to begin with. This is the work. Not becoming someone new, but unlearning the things that made you forget who you already are. And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments, small ones, quiet ones, moments where you choose not to believe the first thing that comes to your mind, moments where you respond differently than you're used to, moments where you give yourself the same grace you've given everyone else. That's how it starts. That's how it shifts. That's how you come back to yourself. Here's what I want you to try after this. The next time that voice shows up, and it will, don't just accept it. Pause. Ask yourself, is this actually true? Or where did this come from? That one moment of awareness, that's how it starts. That's how you begin to take back your power. Because I didn't wake up one day and silence that voice. I learned how to sit with it, question it, and slowly change my relationship with it. And I'm still doing the work every single day. So, if you're in that space right now where that voice feels louder than you are, just know you're not stuck there. You're becoming aware. And awareness is where everything starts to shift. We're going to keep unpacking this. Real stories, real moments, real ways to shift this. Because this isn't just about mindset. It's about reclaiming yourself. Because on the other side of that voice is you, the real you. And that's what Elevate Within is all about. Not becoming someone new, but evolving into who you were always meant to be. So make sure you keep elevating within. And I'm going to close this off by saying my father used to say every time he called on Sundays. And I thought I'd share it with you. If no one told you that they love you today, I love you very, very much. Thank you, and I will see you next time on Elevate Within.